franking credits are another big ticket item. It's probably got the most press, and I could say, out of all the Labor changes, this is the only one I've got phone calls on. Everything else, probably lack of awareness maybe, lack of press, but this one here has had a lot of press. It affects retirees, it affects the heart and soul of our nation, so it's one that has got a lot of anger about it and everything else. So just a bit of a history about it. Pre-1987, there was no such thing as franking credits. So what that means is that there was double taxation. The company would make profits, they'd pay tax on those profits. In those days it was 49%, so it was a very high tax rate. And those profits are distributed to shareholders. And those shareholders will pay tax at their tax rate as well. But there's no concept of franking credits to reduce your tax down by using company tax already paid. It was double taxation. In 1987, amidst a raft of changes that Keating report put through, which included fringe benefits tax, introduction of capital gains tax, we also introduced the franking credit system. What that means is that you could use a franking credit, which is company tax paid, to reduce your tax down to zero, but any unused franking credit, as we do today, will not be issued as a refund. Either you use it or you lose it. That's basically the philosophy back in 1987, and that lasted to 2000. Obviously, a change of government, large budget surpluses. Howard and Costello said, well, we'll give the money back to the taxpayers. And that's also the introduction of the mining boom as well. So at that time, that policy or that change in law cost taxpayers $550 million. And that was the cost of the taxpayer at that particular point in time. 19 years, fast forward 19 years until today, Shorten wants to go back to the future and go back to 1987. So introduce that policy. The negative gearing, that was a Keating policy between 1985 to 1987 until they got lobbied by the property industry, and they abandoned negative gearing at that point in time. So that's what Shorten wants to do. His reason for it is that now, by paying franking credits as refunds to taxpayers, it's costing the economy $8 billion, not $550 million. And he wants to use that money for infrastructure, hospitals, schools, defence, and all those sorts of things. As a counter-argument, so I can see to be neutral here, is that the budget surplus is predicted in 2021 to be $22 billion, based on what I read in December 2018. So at the moment it's in deficit and it's reducing, but they're predicting a surplus, and that's obviously based on employment, commodity prices. They're the two major ones to get to that surplus. So from Shorten's point of view, he wants to use that money for something else. And Liberals' point of view, they're saying, well, I'll take something away that people's had for 19 years, which affects the retirees. How many people will be exempted? Those who are receiving an age pension or like a Centrelink allowance as of the 28th of March 2018. And that includes if one member in a self-managed super fund receiving that pension as well, as of that date, they'll be excluded from these laws. So that's the only carve-out that I can see as well. So that's basically the timeline there.
Just a question
Yeah,
there.
sure.
So those franking credits can be carried forward if you don't use them in a year?
No.
So you're saying it's lost in that
It's
year?
lost. Yep, that's right. It's lost forever. A lot of our rebates in the Australian taxation system, this is the only rebate that offers a tax refund. All the others, either they lose it or you either use it or lose it.
But if you go back to the tax
Yep.
imputation system that was introduced in 2000, so the Labor policy would be that if you can't use your franking credit in that year, you'll lose it, you can't carry it forward.
That's right.
So that's backwards from 2000.
From 2000, you could actually, that's the Howard government, so they introduced that, you can get cash refunds for your franking credits. To 1987, you're with Keating, you can't carry forward back in those days. You could either lose it.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're really going back to 1987, where you can't use those franking credits anymore. So that's what he's really, so Shorten's really introducing policies that Keating had 2 years ago, negative gearing, and also the franking credits. So there's no new policies, it's just going back to what Labor was back under the Keating and Hawke. So a very powerful slide again in terms of what it means. You can say the tax rate at 0% is your standard pension fund, self-managed fund, that's in pension. They will lose under the proposed, all their franking credits. If you're in accumulation where the tax rate's at 15%, then you'll lose some of your franking credits. And anything where your tax rate is over and above 30%, there's no change. There's no change at all in terms of Liberal or Labor, which really comes down to those low tax rate payers, being pensioners or those self-employed people, for example, not self-employed, retirees, who just live off their dividends as well, with maybe they'll enter into an age pension after the 28th of March as well. I know it's a little bit unfair, but they will lose a source of income. So because you're losing that source of income, or that source of cash, what do you do? What do you do? Do you just do you wear it? Do you change your spending habits, for example? Do you look at alternative forms of investment? I'll ask somebody, our financial advisor, Bureau West, out the back to say a few words on that. There's a whole range of thoughts that have to go through your head in terms of what do you do to replace that source of income. So what we're looking at is really some strategies, and the first one I will say a few words, and that's to review the investment strategy and asset allocation that you currently have. So I might just quickly hand over to Asadi.
So with my clients actually, I know some of my clients are here, we only have about 15 to 20% allocated into Australian shares, so this impact is not going to make a massive downfall or anything to do with other pensions. So I always tell my clients, remember why we are investing for a goal, for retirement or funding the tuition fees or private school. This is the idea of investing. So we don't heavily rely on franking credit. I don't think any of my clients actually know they're getting any franking credit refunds even. We only focus on the asset allocation. Where are we going to invest? That's our main goal. If they're in a retirement, how are we going to fund the retirement? That's our goal. So we still have the best companies in Australia. You know, doing this actually people are going to go away from investing in Australia, but we still have really good companies, really good banks, financial institutes. So don't get discouraged because of the franking credit, go somewhere else. You know, we still need to support our companies in Australia. So yeah, we have to work together to see what impact going to happen to a self-made super fund, then work with that. Are we going to go and invest into international market, or are we actually going to go for infrastructure investments? Where can we actually pick up that extra income going to lose from the franking credit? So that's what I'm encouraging my clients to do, and I don't think anybody had any problems and they're happy with the income coming in. So we don't have massive impact going to happen with the franking credit. So if you actually have a diversification and if it's actually constructed properly, you will have minimal impact on that.
Yeah, thanks, Asadi. So the next strategy is those people who are in pension, obviously go back to the previous slide, they're losing all the franking credits. So if their pension is commuted to accumulation, so in other words, you're going from a 0% tax environment to a 15% tax environment, and you've got enough franking credits within your super fund to pay your tax, so that way there's no tax payable anyway, that would be another strategy, because there are a number of benefits of doing that. The first one is every year that if you're on a pension, you have to make your minimum pension payments. It's all based on your age. You've got to take X percentage out of your total balance of the year before. So if you go to accumulation, you don't need as much of a pension stream you take out because you're required to by law. Why not leave that money in super and use that to invest and really grow your wealth in that super fund a little bit more? That's one strategy to do. So that really preserves the wealth in there, leaves the cash flow in there as well, and that means you have more money in super. So that's one strategy that you can do. So that's one, to keep money in super. So what I'll do now, unless there's any questions, or there'll be questions at the end, don't mind either way, I'll hand over to Nilay to talk about the superannuation changes.
Thanks, Mark.